This weekend, there's a big deal happening this Saturday. So people are upset because of the CARES Act and because the government is bought by corporations. So they're screwing everybody. And they're not giving us health care. They're not giving us a living wage. They're not giving us student debt relief. They're not giving us a Green New Deal. They're not giving us anything. And so this Saturday, July 11th, there's a rally at your congressperson's home. Demand a people's stimulus. And one of the people instrumental in putting this together is Nick Brana. Nick Brana from a Party for the People's Movement is here. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. It's good to see you again.
So he's the founder and the national director at Movement for a People's Party, and he's the former national political outreach coordinator for Bernie's 2016 campaign. Okay, so that's who you are. So tell people about what's going on with this, Nick, this July 11th. That's this Saturday, right?
Absolutely. So this Saturday, I got to lay a little bit of context out. You know, like you've talked about so much. I mean, the Democrats and Republicans, what they did in response to the coronavirus pandemic has been an absolute catastrophe for working people. They bailed out Wall Street, multi-trillion-dollar bailout of Wall Street within weeks. And this was after having failed to prepare. They had months of advance notice. They had notices the Pentagon was aware in November. It landed on the president's desk, Trump's desk, and in January. Members of Congress were briefed in January and February. You know what they did with that information when they were told there's a pandemic that could come to the United States and sweep the United States, and we're completely unprepared because we have a horrific healthcare system? They went and they bet on the stock market instead that would happen. And so they invested themselves in the in the financial collapse and in all the catastrophe that's happened so far. So what we're doing on Saturday across the country is we're holding rallies and marching and holding car parades directly to our members of Congress's homes. We're marching to their homes and we're going to demand a people's stimulus because you bailed out Wall Street last time. And now they're saying that this is going to be the last coronavirus bailout. Well, we will be damned if we're going to get away from that, just be left in this crisis without working people being bailed out whatsoever. We're demanding Medicare for all, a universal basic income, canceling rent and mortgage payments through the duration of the crisis, keeping people on payroll, defunding police and moving those funds back to social services, and also canceling debt payments like student debt and credit card debt, which are crushing people.
So just to give people some more context, 1 in 4 New York City tenants haven't paid rent since March. 32% of U.S. families missed July's house payments. 23 million in the United States face eviction by September. The CARES Act enacted a 120-day eviction moratorium, which ends on July 25th. The boost to unemployment benefits also stops at the end of the month. 20 million people out of work. So, and guess what Nancy Pelosi's big idea is for this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But they got $5 trillion to Wall Street, unlimited trillions. $1 trillion a day if they need it, to Wall Street, and the rest of the oligarchs got $5 trillion, and we got nothing. They gave us a $600 unemployment for a few weeks. We got nothing, and so and Bernie Sanders right now is in the process of telling you to accept that and vote for Joe Biden because he's not going to give you any of those things either. And Bernie Sanders, so you have no one in Congress to help you. Everybody in the squad voted for the screwing of you. Every one of them voted for the screwing of you, including Bernie Sanders. There is no help coming from Congress. They are not your friend. They are your enemy. Bernie Sanders right now, not working for you, working for Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. And so what are we left to do? We're going to go to people's houses. So is that legal to do, Nick?
It is. It is legal. And in fact, it's a tactic that's been seeing success recently. For example, in Los Angeles, protesters, including Our Revolution Los Angeles, who joined us and affiliated with us in May, and you had Jerry on, they have been going to Mayor Eric Garcetti's house along with a coalition of other organizations, and they forced Mayor Garcetti to defund $133 million out of the outrageous police fund, balloon police fund that you have in LA. The same thing happened. Protesters went to, during the net neutrality fights in 2014, 2015, protesters started going to Tom Wheeler's house. He was FCC chair at the time. And they blocked his driveway and would stop him from going to work, essentially, and would protest outside of his house continuously. And it helped win us an extension of net neutrality. Of course, it got us another 2 years or so of net neutrality. And so it's been a successful tactic. And really, I mean, the majority of Congress is millionaires, Jimmy. Like, they live in, gated communities. They never have to actually see the devastation that they've wrought with the CARES Act and in this pandemic, what they've put people through. And so that needs to change. And so we're going to march and lead honking car parades to our members of Congress's homes this Saturday. And you can find exactly where we're going to be if you go to peoplesparty.org and you look at the July 11th action. You can join your local action, because what we're going to do is we're going to call them outside and ask them to commit to a people's stimulus. We're going to tell them this is ridiculous. In the middle of a pandemic, you have the left country of the United States that's saying they're going to veto Medicare for all. And so we need to get these demands, and we have to, frankly, they have to see us. They have to see us. We can't just deal with their intermediaries, with their staff, be content to send an email or make a phone call. That's not enough anymore. They have to see the actual suffering that they in their lives as majority millionaires never have to encounter, never have to even witness the suffering that they cause. And so we're going to hold impromptu people's town halls right outside of their house. And we're going to say, come outside, join us, and commit to this. And if you're not going to do that, then you need to tell people why it's right in the richest country in the world to have a third of families with children who can no longer afford food, bread lines that stretch for miles, 23 million people about to be evicted from their homes, 45 million people about to lose their unemployment lifelines. If you think we saw an uprising in June, wait till you kick 45 million people off of their unemployment benefits, the only thing that they're surviving on now. Wait until you evict 23 million people out of their homes into a pandemic. Then you're going to see an uprising.
Yeah, it took a couple years for Barack Obama to kick 8 million people out of their houses. It didn't happen all at once like it seems like it's going to happen now. So right now there's going to be 23 million people. And again, there's no plans. Joe Biden has no plans to help this. Bernie Sanders has plans to help this, but he won't fight for them. He's telling you, don't fight for them now, just support Joe Biden. Bernie has a plan for all of this stuff. He's not going to ever use the power of his movement to coerce that stuff from Joe Biden or the Democratic Party. He's just never going to do it. And so the only way to get it is direct action, like we saw in the last few months. And like you're planning for this Saturday, you're going to go right to Nancy Pelosi's house, right?
That's right. We're going to go right to Nancy Pelosi's house in San Francisco. Shahid Buttar is going to join us. He's going to join us with a sound truck. And we're going to get the pleasure of blasting Nancy Pelosi's house with some of our stories, the stories of unfortunately enormous pain and suffering, but also music. These are part of the parades and the rallies that we're going to hold. In Massachusetts, in Worcester, Massachusetts, we actually had the representative there, Jim McGovern, agree to a town hall with us. And so he's going to be joining us, and we're going to be discussing the people's stimulus with him for an hour. And that's exactly what other members of Congress have got to do. They've got to come outside and they've got to talk, or they have to explain why it is that they're going to deny these things.
Well, now that Nancy Pelosi knows you're coming to her house, don't you think she's going to leave or hire some cops to crack your head when you get there?
We're going to be, our protest is going to be peaceful, and we're going to be on the sidewalk. And so if they were to do that, that would be highly illegal. If they were to come after us in that way. And so, I mean,
we all know how the cops like to follow the law during protests.
That's unfortunate. I also want to mention, though, that we are going to be, of course, part of the urgency around doing this, but also something that we need to keep in mind is that we are, obviously in the middle of a pandemic, which is out of control thanks to the government's lack of a response now. And so it's going to be a socially distanced protest, and we're going to be wearing masks. So just so that everyone knows.
Okay.
And I want to say too, Jimmy, because it's just outrageous. People in this country, they don't know that in Europe, many countries there just responded with a effective version of the Paycheck Protection Program. They just subsidized businesses that were hit by the pandemic, and they kept everyone on payroll. And so here in the United States, while we have like massive layoffs, enormous unemployment, tens of millions of people getting kicked out of their homes, everybody, no longer having a job, 40% of small businesses are expected to go bankrupt. That's the biggest corporate consolidation at this pace in U.S. history, certainly in modern history. I mean, you have all of this, but meanwhile, in Ireland, in Denmark, in Germany, they just put people, they just subsidize payroll immediately, and they've seen, they've seen less than a percentage point unemployment increase. So here in the U.S., it's just a catastrophe.
A catastrophe. So right now, Germany has 6% unemployment. Why is that? Well, because they handled it correctly. And why didn't we handle it correctly? We didn't handle it correctly in the United States because our government, our Congress, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump, Steve Mnuchin, they're bought by corporations and the richest oligarchs in the country. So as soon as this crisis happened, they have a plan. And what is the plan? Is the plan to help people? No. The plan is to throw $1 trillion at their stock market so their stocks don't crash. And then the rest of the plan is to take the $4 trillion of those dollars left over and give it to the richest people to consolidate their power instead of fixing our economy. They didn't do anything to help us. Nancy Pelosi, Steve Mnuchin, Donald Trump, and Chuck Schumer and McConnell did nothing to help us. They, as Dylan Ratigan said, what they did was they made our car run out of gas, which is the economy, and you're just supposed to fill the car back up with gas. That's not left, right, Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian. That's just common sense. They didn't put gas back in the car. What they did was they took the wheels off it and ripped the radio out and left. And the car still doesn't have gas in it. That's what our economy is right now. And people don't know what's coming. They don't know because I still see YouTube news shows talking about the CARES Act and the Democrats' response to it as if it's just another bad vote. As if somehow, some way, Bernie Sanders and the squad could ever do anything in their career to ever make up for that. They fucking can't. They endorsed the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of the human race. They voted for it. They didn't do a fucking thing for you. And now we're going to their houses. So that's what's got to happen. So you're going to go to Nancy Pelosi's house. You're going to go to Mitch McConnell's house too?
That's right. We're going to Mitch McConnell's house. We're going to Nancy Pelosi's house. We're going to Chuck Schumer's house. We're going to Ted Cruz's house, Warren Davis, Marcia Fudge, Raul Grijalva, Steny Hoyer. We're going to all of these folks' houses, 38 rallies across the country. So, join your local rally, promote online. We went top trending in California yesterday, People's Stimulus. We went top 50 trending in the United States. And so, this is really like people are just beginning to reckon and with how much of a catastrophe this is going to be if nothing happens and if everybody is kicked out of their homes, loses their unemployment. And the other thing that's happening, Jimmy, the kind of recognition that's happening is the coalition. The coalition that's coming around this is really unprecedented. So we've had Our Revolution chapters. Obviously, Our Revolution was founded by Bernie to reform the Democratic Party. Well, lately, some of them are saying that's not working out.
It's not working.
And they're joining us instead. Our Revolution Los Angeles, Our Revolution Central Connecticut as well. We've also seen recently, we were joined in the coalition by Andrew Yang's organization, Humanity Forward. And so this is really significant because it's a former Democratic presidential candidate who is, partnering with us as a movement for a major new party and saying, yes, we have got to take direct action and go to people's homes immediately. We've also been joined by the Income Movement, also part of the Yang Gang, and also the Humanity First movement, and as well as United Left and other organizations. And so there's a recognition that this is a real crisis, and we've got to come together to do something about it immediately.
I couldn't agree with you. I didn't know you had that much support for this. That's fantastic. That's great to hear. That really is. Raul Gravaglia, isn't he known as a very big progressive? Why would you go to his house?
Because he voted for the CARES Act.
I know.
Because he voted for a multi-trillion-dollar Wall Street bailout. Because even the people who are the best in Congress
are worthless.
Are not really pushing for this. They're not really using their leverage. Like Pramila Jayapal, for example, she ended up being the only one who voted against the HEROES Act.
The only one.
Exactly. All of the squad voted for it. And so, and the HEROES Act, just like the task forces, no Medicare for all, no basic income, no free public college,
no UBI,
no breaking up the banks, regulation of Wall Street. So it's like, especially, Medicare for all, the rest of the world, the rest of the rich world takes this for granted. We're in the middle of a pandemic and you can't do that. And, you have the fact that, like, the degree to which this government and these parties have bungled this response, the level to which a corrupt catastrophe that the response to coronavirus has been from these two parties is truly galling. It is galling. They have the fact they started off by not heeding the warnings. They didn't stockpile masks or ventilators. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to prepare. So when the pandemic came here, what did they do? They lied.
Yes.
They lied to everyone about the effectiveness of masks. And they told them, they didn't say, don't use a mask because we need them for health professionals because we didn't fucking prepare for this crisis. They didn't say that. They didn't say you can make your own mask. It took them weeks to say that later. They said in the critical early weeks of the pandemic, they said, don't use a mask. And that's why now the United States has 4% of the world's population and 25% of the world's coronavirus cases and deaths. And now what happened with the curve, Jimmy, is, it was all about flattening the curve. It was about, the curve. What happened to the curve is it went up, it plateaued, and then the Democrats and Republicans and Trump said, well, fuck this, we're just going to reopen anyway at the plateau, and they reopened, and so now we have a second wave building on top of the plateau of the first wave. And so the de facto strategy now is herd immunity, even though the fact that nobody's ever going to admit it, and that is absolutely catastrophic to the country.
So the whole point of closing down was pointless. So they wrecked the economy, stole $5 trillion, and it didn't even stop the coronavirus because they did it in such a fucked up way. And now it's even worse. Trump is saying we need to open schools again because they're opening schools in Germany and Sweden and all. Yeah, you know how many cases they had in Germany yesterday? 56. You know how many we had in the United States? 50,000. That's a big difference. These are, it's not really exaggerated. That's close to how many, that's close. So it's nuts that the way, exactly right. And it's not just the Democrats, it's not just Trump, it's not just the village idiot. Dr. Fauci is the guy who lied to America about the effectiveness of masks. And everybody says, well, he had to lie to us. The mentality of people because they hate Trump that makes somehow Fauci is the antidote to him. Fauci is another lying bureaucrat who you can now not trust. You cannot trust Fauci. He's a liar who lied to us about our health, about the biggest thing that he's ever handled in his life. His first act was to lie to us and endanger my health because he told people masks didn't help, and they do help. And so now people could have got sick. How many people died because they didn't think masks worked because Fauci lied to them? And why isn't he in jail for that?
They accelerated the pandemic in the United States.
That's right.
It's absolutely outrageous by telling people not to do that. Other countries, South Korea, Japan, who were controlling it more so, Singapore, they understood all of their citizens were wearing masks, like the government's actually providing masks, in some countries. Like, wow, what a how mind blowing is that? Like, but here in the United States, they gave the full range of responses on masks. Don't wear them. They're not helpful. Some people even saying they're harmful. What? Like other people, and then saying, okay, maybe wear them, and then saying, yes, wear them, make your own, and then saying, yeah, now they're mandatory. Now it's like we've moved to that degree where it's even like, the governor of Texas is like saying you got to wear a mask, like super Republican, super conservative. So like what they've done is they've completely destroyed the confidence in the government to manage this crisis and to give any kind of like advice that is actually that actually works for us. And so now we have the issue of wearing masks is like a culture war. And so now you have this continued issue with, but like a systemic issue around safety where you can't keep people safe because, nobody trusts the government over to wear a mask or social distance or what to do. It's these two parties do not deserve to govern. That's it.
This is it. I agree with you. Nick Brana's taking them on. He's going right to the politicians' houses. He's going to Nancy Pelosi's house. He's going to Mitch McConnell's house and a lot more houses this Saturday, July 11th. Let me put it up for everyone to see. There it is. Everybody check that out. July 11th, rally at your congressperson's home. What's the website where they can go for this?
Go to peoplesparty.org. Click on the yellow button above that says Take Action July 11th. You'll see there a map of all of the events. Click the one for your member of Congress or your senator, and join us in the streets on Saturday.
Okay, all right, Nick. Great. I'm glad you're doing. I'm glad somebody's doing something. I really am. I can't. I can't go. I can't go to. Oh, you don't know how much it kills me to not be able to go out and protest. It just kills me. But I can't chance getting this. But anyway, Nick, great job. And let me know how it goes, and I'll certainly try to spread the word.
Great talking to you, Jimmy.
Hey, this is the part where I tell you where our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then I would tell you to go join our premium, but nobody has a fucking job. So why don't you just enjoy the video?